Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so we're back with rational functions, and our next topic is solving rational equations. So we'll have two different parts. Our first part is solving when we have a common denominator. And so this first part will help you with numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 in your practice. Keep in mind that a rational function is represented as a fraction, two polynomial functions, one on top, one on bottom. An issue that we run into in mathematics is division by zero. It's not defined mathematically. So as a result, this will produce what we call restrictions. And so to find these restrictions, we want to find the roots of each denominator. And so we find this by setting each factor equal to 0 and solving for x. And so in this case, we have common denominators of 4x plus 2, and this will give us our restrictions. So we want to take 4x plus 2, and we set it equal to 0. What we want to do from here is solve it. We want to isolate x and find out what x cannot equal. And so whatever x is makes the denominator 0, and that's a problem if we're dividing by 0. So to find what that is, we'll solve it. So we get 4x So sorry, let's clean that up. So 4x the addition by 2 and subtraction by 2 cancel, and equals, and 0 minus 2, and we get negative 2. Alright, our last part here is keep in mind that we're multiplying, so we want to do the opposite of multiply and divide, and so we get x equals negative 2/4. But keep in mind, reduce if you can. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2. And so we can simplify that. So this is what x cannot equal. Now that we know our restrictions, because we have common denominators, we'll focus on the numerators and the signs in between those expressions. What this produces is an equation so we get 2x plus 4 equals 10. And yet again, we want to solve this for x. Now this will give us our solutions to the rational equation. So we'll first start by subtracting 4 on both sides. And we'll bring down that 2x. So we get 2x equals, keep in mind that those canceled, and 10 minus 4 on this side is 6. Yet again, here we're multiplying, so we want to undo that multiplication by dividing, and we get x equals 3. Okay, let's check our restriction. So can x equals 3? Yes, it can. X can't be, and whoopsie, this would be negative 1/2. So our solution in the end is what we found, which is x equals 3. Okay, so let's try that again. Here, as we begin, our restrictions, yet again, come from that denominator. And some of these you'll be able to solve in your head. So here you may be thinking that it's negative 7, and you'd be correct. So we take the factor x plus 7, we set it equal to 0, and then we solve. Yet again, what we're finding is what makes our denominator 0, so this is our restriction. Our solution cannot be this value. And so we'd start by subtracting 7 on both sides, and we get x, those cancel out, equals negative 7 when we subtract 0 minus 7. Alright, so x is isolated, just took one step this time, so our solution cannot be negative 7. So now we can actually find the solution to the equation. And so we're going to pay attention to the signs in between. And so what we can do here, and what we can think about, is this addition sign. And so we want to distribute it. A positive times a positive doesn't change it. We still have a positive 3x. And a positive times a positive doesn't change it. And we still have a plus 12. So here we get x minus 5 plus 3x plus 12 equals 13x minus 56. What we want to do from here is we want to combine our like terms. So we can combine x and 3x, and we'll get 4x. From here, we can combine minus 5 with plus 12 to give us plus 7. And then we'll bring down that 13x minus 56. Okay, so we can begin solving it from here. And really, we have two choices. We can move the x's to the left side or to the right side when you're solving a linear equation. So I'm going to model it by moving it to the left side. So I'm going to subtract 13x on this side and subtract 13x on this side. Alright, so here we get negative 9x plus 7. Those cancel out, equals negative 56. Our next step is now we'd move the numbers to the right side, so we'd subtract 7 on both sides. So we get negative 9x equals, and as we subtract 7 from negative 56, we get a larger negative. So now at this point, we have negative 9x divided equals negative 63, and we want to divide on both sides. So negative 9x equals negative 63. And we divide by negative 9 because here they're multiplied. So we get x equals positive 7. So here we'll come and we'll check our restrictions. And so x can be positive 7. So one thing that I would like to stress is let's go ahead and let's take, so 4x plus 7 13x minus 13x. If we had chosen to move the x's to this side, we could subtract 4x from both. And so in this case, we'd bring down 7, and those would cancel. This would become 9x and minus 56. From here, we'd add 56 to both sides, and we'd get 63 equals, bring down the 9x, and those cancel out. Finally, we divide both sides by 9, and we get 7 equals x, or, right, so one way or another, we're going to get 7, and so you can choose which way you want to solve it. Move x to the left, move x to the right. Okay, I want to show you one last thing, and then we'll go ahead and we'll move on. The last thing I'd like to show you is how you can do multiple steps in one. So here, let's say I'm doing it this way here. I could subtract the 4x on both sides of that equal sign. And so since I'm moving x's to the right, then I could also add 56 to both sides as well. Here and here, those parts cancel out, and that's an intentional part of what we did. So we get 63 equals 9x. And then now we can come and we can divide both sides by 9 and get, well, whoops, 7 equals x. Alright, so you can do two steps, addition, subtraction in the same row, provided you can mix addition and multiplication, addition, subtraction. Okay, so then to finish off the last part of our video, let's talk about the restrictions here, and then let's find the solution. And this will be one of the special cases that we'll run into. So here we can say x cannot equal -3. And if we want to go through and do the steps manually, we'd set it equal to 0, and then we'd solve that equation. Would get x equals -3. So now as we do this one, and so something that we want to think about is that we're paying attention to those signs that are in between there. And let's see, I'd like a little bit more room here, so let me see if I can make some room. Okay, that'll have to work. So here we notice that we have this subtraction sign in between here. So we want to distribute the sign here to the x, which gives us -x, and we want to distribute to the -2, which becomes +2. So as we bring it down, we have 5x minus x plus 2 equals 3x minus 1. So the importance of the subtraction here is that it changed the signs of both of our terms, x and -2, to -x plus 2. Then from here we can combine like terms, and so we get 4x plus 2 equals 3x minus 1. Let's try doing those two steps. Actually, I'll leave that to you if you want to try doing this 2 steps in one, and I'll take 2 steps. So I'm going to move x to the left side. If you feel uncomfortable playing around with it, then pick one way and stick with it. And for those that want to get used to different ways, play around with it. See if you get the answer doing it both ways. So here we subtract 3x on both sides. Here we just get x. If you want to put a 1, you can, but we don't need to. We'll bring down that plus 2 equals negative 1. Okay, so from here, the next part to solving it is we'll subtract 2 on both sides, and we get x equals negative 3. So negative 1 minus 2 gives us a larger negative. So now we want to come and check that restriction. So x equals negative 3 is our solution, but our restriction, x can't be negative 3. So if we remove the solution, we don't have any more solutions, so there's no solution. Okay, so this concludes the first part, and you'll have your second part that'll help you with the last 3 questions of your practice.